Hi, I'm Matt Collins. I'd like to welcome you to Bob Weber Auto Mart on Douglas Avenue here in Racine, across from Douglas Park. We specialize in 1-year-old, low mileage, almost new cars. And if you'd like to stop by and see them or see them on our website, bobweberautomart.com, we could save you between $5,000 and $10,000 on your next almost new car purchase.
Welcome into another edition of Sports Junkies. Time for some Pack Talk. I'm Steve Sparky Fifer from Sports Radio 1250 WSSP in Milwaukee. He, of course, Gery Woelfel from the Racine Journal-Times. The Packers lose in disappointing fashion to the Pittsburgh Steelers, but the Bears get embarrassed by the Eagles, which means on Sunday we have a game for the division title and a playoff berth. The winner goes on, loser goes home. Packers, Bears, Sunday night. Let's first start off with that Steelers game. Obviously, you don't want the game to come down to your quarterback, Matt Flynn, when you use your fourth quarterback of the season, but unfortunately, that's kind of what it came down to.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm standing behind Matt Flynn. I know he had some critical turnovers down the stretch, but I thought in this stretch he has really done an outstanding job. I mean, he came in middle of the season, had to learn basically a new system. It wasn't, the same system he saw when he left, a couple of years ago. And, man, I'll tell you what, you don't feel sorry for the most part for professional athletes. But when he ran and fumbled the ball, I mean, you can see this guy is just trying to create a play, make a play, and giving it his all, and then he loses the football. But, the Packers, I mean, the bottom line for pro sports is you can't make mistakes. I mean, it's that simple, and he did.
There were a lot of different things that I kind of questioned throughout the game. The interception where he runs into Corliss and the ball goes wobbling like a duck that was a pick six.
Right.
That was him changing the call at the line of scrimmage and not everybody hearing what the play call change was.
Yeah.
So you had Corliss and him on two different pages, and that's why that ended up being a problem. Again, that is the inexperienced quarterback not getting a call. Okay, so that's on Flynn there. Then later in the game, you have the Steelers, which I thought was the biggest bonehead thing ever. They get the ball back with about a minute 45 to go. They're down the goal line. They run a play. The Packers tackle the guy instead of just letting him score. They call a timeout. Well, now it's their last time out of the game. There's like a minute and a half to go.
Right.
I'm sitting there watching him going, you just kneel the ball twice, kick the extra point, it's over, and run the clock out and give them like 30 seconds. Instead, they come out in shotgun and run a draw play. Thankfully, the Packers didn't tackle him that time.
Right.
And the guy scores a touchdown. They could have ran the clock out way more than they did. Micah Hyde then gets the kick return. You're going, okay, we got a chance at it. But again, you have the false start penalty. You get 10 seconds to run off the clock. From 20 to 10, that cost you 2 plays.
Right.
Now you're down at 10. And then it took 7 seconds to snap the ball or whatever it was.
That was a real issue right there. Yeah, and the other thing about...
And McCarthy blamed the ump. He said, hey, the umpire wouldn't get out of the way of the snap. There was nothing Flynn could do or Dietrich Smith. They set the ball down, the clock starts running, and he just kind of walks out of there. By the time he got out of there,
you know what, though? I mean, if you heard the official, he said the clock will start at his...
When he dropped the ball.
Exactly. But McCarthy was right. He did stand out there, which was the joke. I thought the officiating yesterday was just horrendous. Absolutely horrible. And when you can get by with that early in the season when they're basically meaningless games, but there was so much riding on the line. And I thought there were at least 3 really, really bad calls yesterday. And what we talked about this ad nauseum over the last 3 or 4 weeks. When are officials going to become accountable? If an offensive lineman gets called for a holding penalty, they announce it on the air, number 77, Bill Smith, was called for holding. If there's a flag call, they'll say, oh, yeah, bad call, but they don't call out the official. They don't say, so the average fan at home is in there, okay, who's that official? In the first quarter, he comes back, in the fourth quarter, does the same thing, and you go, wait a minute, what's this guy onto? What is he incompetent or whatever? To me, every time an official calls or throws the flag, they should identify him, saying, okay, back judge Bill Smith, called, whatever.
I don't mind that.
And say, hey, these guys are paid a lot of money.
Sure.
and they are protected by the NFL, and I think those days are long over. That they should indeed be accountable.
Injuries in this game obviously play a factor going into next week's game. Brad Jones leaves the game. Eddie Lacy leaves with an ankle injury. He's been playing with an ankle injury the last 2 weeks. Hasn't practiced during the week the last 2 weeks, but plays in the game.
Does he have a different doctor?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, I didn't know. I didn't know if he'd be cleared to play.
So we'll see.
Ankle.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll get to that. We'll see if Eddie Lacy is able to play or not. Coming up on Sunday against the Bears. Bears are atrocious against the run. They got gouged again yesterday against the Eagles.
What's worse than atrocious?
I don't know.
That was about as bad of a game as I've ever seen.
Yeah.
I mean, if I was a Chicago Bear fan, I would have been just livid.
Yep, so they were bad. So you need Lacy. But then the other problem is Clay Matthews, playing with that smaller cast, re-injures his thumb again, the same thumb that he hurt the first time. And I would have to imagine he doesn't play this week.
Did you see the reaction after it happened? It was like he had a wet rag on his right arm. It just went flopping down.
I was concerned it was his shoulder or something up here, the way his arm just dangled. But it was his thumb again, and it appears to be the same exact injury as it was before.
So again, which doctor is going to clear Matthews? Which doctor is going to clear?
I don't think he'll play. And then you have the Aaron Rodgers thing. Now, the Aaron
Do we
Rodgers
have to talk about this? You know what? I am so fed up with this whole
thing. No, hold on.
It's like we're going to spend the whole week again talking
Chris
about it.
Mortensen on ESPN came out on their pregame show on Sunday and said that if Rodgers plays, that he would be put at extraordinary risk of hurting it again, and that's why they're not playing him. Mm-hmm. He then went on to say that in McCarthy's press conference on Friday, if you listen to the Wendy's Big Show on Sports Radio 1250, you heard us playing it, he said the reason why Rodgers wasn't playing was it was an organizational decision.
Correct.
Okay. According to Mortensen, the reason he was using the word organizational was because there was apparently some type of disagreement or dispute between McCarthy and Rodgers as how the Packers were presenting Rodgers' injuries to the public, and Rodgers wanted McCarthy to use that word when saying why Rodgers wasn't playing, because Rodgers is sensitive to the fact of what people think of him, that he's not a tough guy, that he's not brave,
whatever,
blah, 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 blah.
Who would even suggest that?
So Rodgers apparently is the one that wanted him to use this word, according to Chris Mortensen of ESPN. The organizational word, which McCarthy used like 7 or 8 times.
Absolutely.
In that press conference.
It was an absolute cop-out on McCarthy's part.
Well, again, but my question is, there's 2 things here. Number one, Rodgers is acting very soft. Why do you care what people think? So Gery doesn't think you're a man. That doesn't matter. What matters is...
No.
Hold on a second.
I do think he's a man. And I'm saying if he's
physically, yes.
80-90%, if he was that... But Mortensen's report shocked me. I mean, this sounded like a real serious injury.
This is Rodgers. Yeah, but what I got upset about wasn't the extraordinary risk that he put himself at. What I'm shocked at, that Rodgers and McCarthy actually are butting heads on how this is being dealt with in the media, and how Rodgers, the quarterback, is telling the coach how he wants it to be played out in the media. To me, that's an issue for me. Because if I'm the coach, I'm telling my quarterback, look, grow up. Just grow up, would you please?
He's very image conscious. That's
he's
why
very image conscious.
And you know what?
Very sensitive.
And you know what? I fully support him in this.
Oh,
you know what?
yeah.
There are very few athletes or professional people today that care about their image. He cares about his image, and I applaud him.
The only reason
when he dumped Ryan Braun from his business, I thought that was absolutely brilliant.
Okay, fine, I agree.
But the Milwaukee Brewers can make some money off of Ryan Braun, so they're embracing him, saying, "Gee, Ryan, will you play right field for us? Because if you don't want to, we won't do that, you know?"
Don't spin this to broad.
Rodgers,
Rodgers, okay, the reason why he's as image conscious as he is right now is because he's following Brett. And he knows that because Brett has the Iron Man streak, everybody is saying, well, Brett would be playing. Brett wouldn't be cleared.
I disagree with
Brett wouldn't be cleared, and Brett wouldn't be playing because the doctors never would have cleared him. And no player's going out on that field unless he's cleared. So the great Brett Favre wouldn't be playing either. But he is so sensitive to people saying what they say. This is one guy that reads everything and apparently listens to a bunch of sports talk as well on what everybody is saying about him.
I totally defend him. And if he's being thrown out under the bus by Packers management, I mean, that's ridiculous.
He isn't being thrown under the bus by Packers management.
Why don't they come out why didn't they say what Mortensen said Sunday, weeks ago, that this is a real serious injury, and just be upfront, be transparent, and tell everybody, hey, if this guy goes out and play, his career could be on the line.
Answer me this.
Yeah.
Why do you think Rodgers was practicing?
I have no idea.
I'll give you a good idea why I think Rodgers was practicing.
You're speculating here.
Right.
Yeah.
I'll give you a good idea why I think. Because Rodgers wanted to go out there and try it. Rodgers wanted to go out there and practice everything else. Well, there's one problem. When you go out there and practice and the media sees you, now they think you're really close to playing.
Yeah, but you know what?
And you took away first-string snaps from Matt Flynn on top of it.
But on top of it was that all his teammates said he looked great.
But it doesn't matter because it's all about taking that hit. You might have movement here, but as soon as you take that hit here, that's where the problem is.
Yeah, you know the other thing too, I think it's kind of a myth that McCarthy and Rodgers are joined at the hip. I've talked to several people, and they tell me that is not the case. They have a good working relationship, but beyond the working relationship, it's like a lot of people. We go to work, we do our jobs with the people in our respective workplaces, and then we go our separate ways.
Right.
But I think McCarthy, how should I say this, doesn't think Rodgers, I don't know, I think he's more, no, I'm not even going to go there. I'll leave it. I'm stumbling and bumbling. But the bottom line is I don't think McCarthy always agrees with what Aaron Rodgers says or does, okay?
That may not be. Yeah. I agree with that. But again, I'm not a fan of my leader, my quarterback, being as sensitive as apparently he is.
Come on. You've been around pro sports a long time. The great players. In fact, I do not know one truly great player that is insensitive.
Can you come up with another player telling his coach what to say in a press conference?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You think Michael Jordan, the Bulls are talking one way and Michael Jordan was talking the other? No, they wanted to make sure Jordan was on the same page. That happens all the time. Superstars.
So you think players dictate to coaches what they say in press conferences?
For the most part, yeah.
Really?
And I think coaches are real reluctant to criticize their best players because if they lose them,
McCarthy's not going to criticize him. McCarthy was, I think, trying to just tell the truth about the medical clearance.
And Rodgers is. I'm not defending McCarthy on this at all. I mean, he always wants to be this tough guy, tell it like it is guy, and he danced around this whole issue from day one.
How would you have handled it if you were McCarthy?
I would have told exactly what the doctors told me. Said, hey, this guy has a serious injury. We don't expect him to play. If he comes back, we're happy with it. But as of right now, it's...
But every week it's going to be, so did you get cleared? Did you get cleared? So did you get cleared? Every week.
Fine.
So what's he supposed to say?
But you know what? I don't think until Sunday, I certainly didn't have an idea as to the severity of this injury. Did you?
Yes, I told you 2 weeks ago he wasn't going to play the rest of the year. Go back and watch the video from 2 weeks ago. I said on this video I don't think he's going to play the rest of the year.
It came out a report that they had talked about this.
They said 4 to 5 weeks ago, that there was internal discussions that they were going to shut him out for the rest of the year.
Right.
They go to McCarthy. McCarthy goes, no, that's not the case at all. As far as I know, we haven't had discussions.
Yeah.
So, again, who do you believe? The whole thing is a mess, is what it is.
It was handled incredibly bad. It was a PR nightmare. It's still a PR nightmare.
Well, the Rodgers thing now, the Royce report just adds to it. Now this makes it worse.
So I'm waiting for somebody at the press conference, one of the reporters, to confront McCarthy and say, hey, is this accurate or not? And see how he responds to that.
He'll say it's not.
Well, then he's lying.
Well, regardless.
I mean, basically.
Like we say all the time, coaches and GMs lie all the time to reporters. That's nothing new there.
No, but see, why do they have to do that? You know, I mean, it just be upfront. But you know what? You were right. You did say that. I take that back.
Now you remember.
I do remember, yes.
Yeah. Okay. He's Gery Woelfel. I'm Steve Sparky Fifer.
Nostradamus here.
Can the Packers beat the Bears without Aaron Rodgers?
The Racine Raiders could beat the Bears right now. Are they god-awful? I mean, Cutler, how would you like to put your future in Jay Cutler's hands? Not me.
So you're taking the Packers?
Oh, yeah. It's going to get ugly.
I don't know if I can.
Did you watch the Bears last night?
I did. I did. They were awful.
Unless they have some miraculous turnaround. That team is not very good.
They were awful. I don't know. I'll let you know next week. That'll do it for another edition of Sports Junkies. See Sparky, Fifer,
that's the guy I know and love.
Gery Woelfel. We'll talk to you next week right here
Mr. Hindsight
at RacineSportsZone.com.